A deep horn blast echoed across the field moments later. A large group of Fox infantrymen stepped forward, gripping wooden shields and carrying ladders. They moved toward the garrison with slow, deliberate steps. The walls of Lingwan Fort stood only 4 meters high. A skilled warrior could scale it with a burst of strength. Those in the acquired realm could leap to the top in a single bound. The shield-bearing soldiers advanced at a steady pace. The soldiers on the walls held their breath, awaiting Mr. M's command. When the shield soldiers came within 50 steps, Mr. M spoke calmly and said, "Shoot." Arrows flew from the walls in a swift volley. Most struck the ground or the wooden shields. The 100 archers loosed 3 rounds of arrows. Dozens of Fox soldiers fell wounded, but the enemy kept closing in. Mr. M turned to Vance D beside him and said, "Show them our strength." Vance D grinned wide and waved a hand to signal his men. More than 10 tall and sturdy soldiers stepped forward, raising their short spears. These were the short spear throwers Vance D had trained. He'd not only mastered Mr. M's short spear throwing himself, he'd also handpicked 12 soldiers with the strongest arms to learn the skill. Vance D called out, "Come on, let them see what we're capable of." At his command, the 12 soldiers hurled their short spears with force. A series of loud bangs rang out as the spears struck. Many wooden shields splintered and broke apart under the impact. Even the shields that held couldn't be gripped firmly. The Fox soldiers lost their hold, and the shields fell away. Without their shields, they stood exposed to the archers' arrows. Mr. M watched the scene unfold with a slight smile. The short spear throws proved their worth in battle. It was a shame that training such throwers was no easy task. With Vance D and his team's efforts, the enemy's casualties began to climb. Yet the Fox soldiers raised their shields again and pressed forward. These were clearly well-trained warriors, not easily deterred. Soon they reached the base of the city wall. Ladders were propped against the stone as the true battle began. A cry of "Kill" rose from the Fox ranks. Another shouted, "Charge forward. The first to climb up gets 100 taels of silver." The wall stood too low for a strong defense. In no time, several Fox soldiers scaled the ladders and reached the top. Both sides clashed fiercely on the narrow wall. Only a few enemies made it up at a time, and the garrison soldiers quickly overwhelmed them. As the fight raged on, a report reached the tower of Heavy Mountain Pass. A soldier ran to Titus Lewis's side and said, "Report to the Marquis. Over 1,000 Fox troops are attacking Lingwan Fort. They've lit their beacon." Titus Lewis had been reviewing the military situation. The sudden news caught him off guard and left him stunned. He traced the map and said, "Lingwan Fort falls under Jianing Guard, the command of the eldest lady of the Clerk family. She had been the one to request its rebuilding." Titus Lewis knew this well. Now, with Lingwan Fort under siege, he hesitated on whether to send aid. After a moment of thought, he gave his order. He said, "Keep a close watch on Lingwan Fort. Report to me at once if the situation changes." He had his own strategy to follow and couldn't risk the larger plan for a smaller matter. Still, he wanted to see if Lingwan Fort could hold against the Fox people's assault. Inside Lingwan Fort, the air rang with shouts and cries of battle. Mr. M hadn't yet joined the fray. He stood on the tower, watching the fighting unfold with a calm gaze. As time dragged on, the battle grew more brutal. Casualties mounted on both sides with each passing moment. Yet the garrison soldiers held the wall with fierce determination. They drove back every Fox soldier who managed to climb up. Suddenly, Mr. M's eyes narrowed as he spotted a shift. The Fox leader across the field was shouting in a rage. Borja was indeed furious at that moment. A small garrison like this had held them off for far too long. The failure stung his pride deeply. He shouted, "You useless lot! Barto, take your men and go." His decision wasn't born of rage alone. He truly believed his cavalry could bring the garrison to its knees. Compared to the infantry, his cavalry were the finest warriors he had. Borja bellowed, "Go! I want to claim this garrison before nightfall." Barto had no choice but to lead his cavalry into the siege. Mr. M watched the dismounted cavalry approach with a cold sneer. He said, "It's our turn now." He turned and descended the tower with purpose. Theo Ding and Dashan Song followed close behind him. Dashan Song's eyes gleamed with excitement. He now understood Mr. M's plan. They would lead the cavalry into battle. This promised far more thrill than fighting atop the city wall. In mere moments, 200 horsemen assembled before the garrison. Mr. M's voice rang out as he ordered, "Open the gate." The drawbridge dropped with a heavy thud. The sturdy wooden gate creaked open slowly. Mr. M called out, "Stay close behind me. This fight will not end until one side falls." He guided his 200 cavalry along the city wall toward the north. In a flash, they reached the rear of the Fox forces attacking the fort. Mr. M shouted, "Don't stop until they fall." Spears struck like dragons with a thunderous roar. Scarlet let out a fierce bellow, sounding like an ancient beast. Scarlet was no longer the steed he once was. He now bore a helmet and scales weighing 300 kilograms. Yet his speed remained breathtaking. Scarlet's charge cleared the path ahead with unstoppable momentum. Theo Ding and Da Shan Song trailed behind Mr. M. They could only watch his back as they struggled to keep pace. Da Shan Song had fought beside Mr. M many times before. He'd long grown used to Mr. M's fierce bravery in battle. But for Theo Ding, this was his first time on the field with Mr. M. His eyes widened with awe and disbelief at the sight. At that moment, Mr. M stood at the third level of the acquired realm. He had only broken through to the third level half a month before. In terms of cultivation alone, he lagged behind Theo Ding. Yet in raw strength, not even 3 Theo Dings combined could match him. The spiritual spring water had enhanced his physical form over time. Mr. M, of course, was unaware of Theo Ding's astonishment. He was consumed by the thrill of battle, his bloodlust awakened. Scarlet shared the same fierce spirit as Mr. M. Once an ordinary warhorse, the steed had transformed into a fearsome beast. The spiritual spring water had bolstered its strength and physique. What was once a gentle nature had turned wild and untamed. Together, man and horse formed a blade that sliced through the enemy ranks. When Mr. M realized no foes stood before him, his body was already drenched in blood. He glanced back to see Theo Ding and Da Shan Song leading the cavalry toward him. He realized he might have been a reckless leader. He'd charged too far ahead, leaving his troops behind. Mr. M pulled the reins and called out, "Stop!" Scarlet halted at once. Theo Ding and Da Shan Song soon caught up to him. A slight smile curved Mr. M's lips as he shouted, "Follow me." Borja, meanwhile, stood in utter disbelief. The enemy had dared to charge out of the fort. They had the audacity to lead a cavalry into the open battlefield. He'd never expected Mr. M to leave the safety of the fort to fight. Facing a force several times their size, they still came out. A cry broke through the chaos as Barto shouted, "Sir, sir, they're coming!" Borja snapped back to reality, his face twisting with fury. He let out a savage cry of "Kill!" then charged straight toward Mr. M with unyielding determination. Mr. M watched Borja approach as a fierce intent burned in his eyes. The two sides closed the distance between them. In moments, horses and riders crashed to the ground. When the two forces finally parted, the toll was clear. Of Mr. M's 200 cavalry, only just over 100 remained. Borja's force of over 100 riders had dwindled to fewer than 30. Borja sat astride his horse, clutching his wounded shoulder. He called out, "Barto, we retreat!" That exchange told him he was no match for this foe. Worse still, they had lost every advantage they held. The sight of Mr. M's might had ignited the garrison soldiers' spirits. Their morale soared as they fought with renewed vigor. To make matters worse, Vance D and Tristan D had leapt down from the wall. They carved through the scattered Fox ranks with relentless fury. Vance D pointed at a fur-hatted enemy and shouted, "Tristan, that's an officer! Cut him down for me!" He'd had his eye on that man for a while. Until now, he'd had no chance to strike. Seeing the officer trying to flee, he refused to let the opportunity slip. Tristan D heard Vance D's call and sprang into action. On the other side, Borja had given the order to retreat. The Fox army had arrived with bold confidence and high spirits, yet in just over an hour, they were defeated and fleeing in disarray. Mr. M glanced at the panicked Fox troops and then at his own men. He called out, "Chase!" Their strength hadn't yet faded. They could press the pursuit. Mr. M was determined to bring down Borja, the Fox leader. The glory of defeating a Fox leader was worth hundreds of enemy heads. When Mr. M broke through the fleeing soldiers again, the gap to Borja had widened. He turned to his men and said, "You go back, I'll chase him alone." Mr. M wanted to test if Scarlet could close the distance. He knew the others wouldn't be able to keep up. Theo Ding and Da Shan Song exchanged a helpless glance. They turned back to deal with the remaining fleeing enemies. At Mr. M's urging, Scarlet's speed surged forward. After chasing for 7 or 8 miles, Mr. M was less than 200 meters from Borja. 200 meters fell within Mr. M's striking range. The sound of air splitting rang out as he launched spear after spear. Fox cavalry fell from their mounts one by one. In moments, only a dozen or so riders remained behind Borja. Barto, who had been fleeing alongside Borja, suddenly cried out in relief. He shouted, "The main camp, my lord! We've reached the main camp!" Bora's face lit up with a look of surprise. He said, "Let him chase us. I don't believe he'll dare follow us to the main camp." High on the tower of Heavy Mountain Pass, a report came. A soldier rushed to Titus Lewis and said, "My lord, Linguan Fort has driven back the enemy." He added, "They're now pursuing the defeated Fox troops." Titus Lewis lifted his head sharply, his voice filled with disbelief. He said, "Repelled? Didn't they say there were 1,500 Fox bandits? How were they defeated so quickly?" The soldier replied firmly, "My lord, this is the truth. I've questioned the scouts multiple times, and their reports all align." Titus Lewis stood abruptly and strode out of the tower. He moved quickly to the edge and gazed toward the Fox camp in the north. Sure enough, he spotted several figures bursting from the far side of the mountain. The distance was too great to see clearly, yet he could tell the Fox cavalry were moving fast as if pursued by a relentless force. Then, another figure emerged from behind the mountain. He watched as the pursuer hurled short spears one after another. Each throw struck a Fox rider, sending them tumbling from their mounts. Mr. M had no idea Titus Lewis was observing him from afar. He had already spotted the Fox tribe camp ahead. He also noticed several Fox scouts galloping toward him. Mr. M was a man of resolve. He needed to withdraw before the Fox scouts could surround him. If they closed in, he'd be trapped with no way out. On the battlement of Heavy Mountain Pass, Titus Lewis watched the scene unfold. He gazed at the lone figure vanishing into the mountains and forests. Meanwhile, Mr. M had returned to Linguan Fort. Vance D and Dashan Song were already clearing the battlefield. Tristan D rushed to Mr. M as soon as he returned to the garrison. He said eagerly, "Sir, we beheaded 842 enemies and captured 123. It was no surprise he was so eager to share the news. This was a tremendous achievement. Mr. M remained calm, showing no trace of joy. He asked, "What of our casualties?" Tristan D's expression dimmed as he replied, "More than half were lost or wounded." He continued, "We lost 248 in battle, with 73 gravely injured." He added, "Of the 200 cavalry, only 82 remain unscathed." Mr. M fell silent, his heart heavy. He had trained 300 cavalry over the past half year. Only 82 stood unharmed. The rest had either fallen in battle or bore injuries. Such was the harsh reality of the battlefield. Even with Mr. M leading the charge, he couldn't shield his soldiers from loss. He said, "Arrange for the wounded to be cared for first." He added, "Have Vance D send someone to Jianing Guard to report our achievements." In just a few days, they had beheaded over 1,000 enemies. They also held more than 100 prisoners. Such significant military merits needed swift confirmation from the Lieutenant General's office. If others claimed this glory, the soldiers' sacrifices would be for nothing. In the days that followed, a somber mood settled over Linguan Fort. The loss of hundreds of soldiers cast a shadow of grief over everyone. The messengers sent to Jianing Guard to report their merits had returned. But Lucy Clerk wasn't in the city. She had led troops to hunt down Fox cavalry. Still, someone arrived to verify the military achievements. It was none other than Vigo Torres. The two entered the study and sat down to talk over tea. Vigo Torres didn't need to personally verify the military exploits. He had brought soldiers and clerks from the general's office to handle the task. Mr. M asked about the state of Jianing Guard. During this time, many Fox cavalry had crossed into the region under Jianing Guard's command. Their incursions brought chaos across the entire area. Lucy Clerk had grown furious over this more than once, but there was little she could do. Not every garrison could hold back the advancing Fox cavalry, nor were all officials willing to leave their forts to confront the enemy. Lucy Clerk had no choice but to lead her troops to hunt down the invaders herself. At dawn the next day, Mr. Matre M rose early to wash. But before he could finish washing his face, Vance D burst into his quarters and said, "My lord, a major event has occurred. The Fox tribe's camp has been attacked." Mr. M straightened at once, his face filled with astonishment. He never imagined someone else would strike the Fox camp. It must have been the 5th camp of the town mark from Heavy Mountain Pass. Mr. M asked, "What's the situation now?" Vance D replied, "It's unclear. The battle isn't over yet." He added, "But the Fox tribe's camp has been burned to ashes." Mr. M drew a deep breath. He didn't know the full details, but if the camp had been reduced to ashes, the attack had succeeded. Mr. M said, "Let's go see for ourselves." His curiosity burned. He needed to witness the scene in person. They rode out of the garrison with haste. In addition to Mr. M's men, there were also Vigo Torres and his soldiers. They circled around the mountain's peak for a better view. There, they saw the Fox tribe camp engulfed in towering flames. Even from several miles away, the chaotic noise reached their ears. With a chance to earn merit, Mr. M had no intention of letting it slip away. He said, What are we waiting for? He spurred his horse forward, heading straight toward the Fox tribe camp. This was a rare chance to strike a weakened foe. How could they let such an opportunity pass them by?